What is up, everybody? How are you doing this Friday? I am stoked that it's Friday. You excited it's Friday, John?
I am super excited it's Friday. Everyone here on the southeast coast of Florida, get ready for a rainy weekend.
Oh, yeah. Tropical Storm H. What is it?
I don't know. I haven't even paid attention.
I don't know. We're already at H, though, so that's kind of...
I've lived here my whole life. If it's important, I'll hear about it prior, but I heard about it today. So
you invited me to go to the driving range on Saturday night. How are we going to do that?
Only adds 50 miles in wind, maybe loft that ball a little bit farther.
Hopefully I'll drive 300. But happy Friday, everybody. Welcome into the Fantasy Tap. My name is Michael, and this is John, and we have an awesome show for you today that I'm stoked about.
This is going to be a good one, everyone. Make sure you pay attention.
Yeah, take notes. Do whatever you got to do, but get ready. Buckle up. It's going to be a good one. But before we get into today's show, let's touch on our beer of the day. It is the Apricot Wild Sour. It's their Wild Sour series. They got a bunch of them, but we decided to go with the Apricot. I'm an apricot guy, big apricot guy over here. You like apricots?
It's an interesting fruit, You only really see it in desserts and treats and stuff like that. So no, I've never sat down and decided, you know what, I'm going to eat apricot today. What do you peel them and eat them whole, or do you slice them?
Aren't they like peaches?
See, you don't even know.
No, but I've had apricot pie.
How was it?
Good. It was pretty good.
You ever had rhubarb?
Isn't that like Fig Newton?
No, possibly, maybe. I don't know.
We're not cooks. We're not cooks. Kind of like the grammar. Don't take our cooking advice or anything to do with food, but you can take our beer advice. And anyways, we're talking about the Wild Sour Apricot series by Distill Brewery. They're out of Normal, Illinois.
Normal, Illinois, as opposed to not normal Illinois?
I don't know.
Or like Iowa?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. But anyways, so that's the beer of the day. Tastes great so far. Like it. You're a big sour guy.
I do. I finally convinced Mike to let us get a sour on here. They were what I really stepped into when I first started drinking craft brews or going to breweries around me, just because I do enjoy some wine. And
Big wine guy?
Not a big one, no. But
he's a big whiner.
I do like wine. I am a huge whiner, especially if I'm losing. But just a good flavor. I like my sour candy and a sour beer too. Why not?
Yeah, every time I come over to his house, he has sour nerds. He's eating those, so it's a good beer for you. I can tell. So it is definitely sour. Get that little puckered face a little bit. But let's get into our show overview. What we're going to be talking about today. We've got a segment for you called High or Low, and that's based off a player's ADP and whether we think it's high or low. Pretty explanatory.
Wow.
Self-explanatory, I think.
That's better than the Washington football team.
Yeah. So, anyways, after that, we're getting into, it's my favorite, rookie running backs.
Yeah,
we're the hype.
Going to be continuing that rookie series we started last week, moving into our tight ends and quarterbacks next week.
Last week? This was this week.
I'm sorry, last episode. Moving into the tight ends and quarterbacks next week, starting with Tuesday's show. But today's the running backs. This is when a running back has its most value. I mean, they get to make their mark. The running backs' longevity in the league can only be so long.
Yeah, it can only be so long. You're right.
You're looking at like 3 prime years unless they're an elite back. So
yeah, no, 100%. That's why they're not getting paid. That's why we have Le'Veon Bells of the league holding out, Melvin Gordon, all of them, which I don't blame them. So, anyways, we're talking about them today. But John, let's jump into high or low.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. So, Devin Singletary. So,
What's the question?
My question for you is, right now Devin Singletary's PPR and ADP and his ADP in a PPR league is 45. He's running back 25 off the board. And so I'm asking you, Devin Singletary, is he valued high or low for you?
To be blunt, I think it's kind of high, just to get that off my chest right now. But last year he finished as the running back 32 in PPR scoring, and he only played 12 games. So I think that has a lot of people hyped. They saw that small sample size, or I mean, it's a pretty decent sample size, and he finished where he did, which is, low end running back 3. And I'm not saying he's not going to be a solid flex player. And he was very efficient in his last 10 games. After he came back from an injury, he only dropped below 4 yards per carry twice at two of those games, 2 out of 10. So, but what worries me is them drafting Zach Moss, and the reason why I believe that he's gonna take away from Devin Singletary is his goal line touches. Devin Singletary is only 5'7", 203. He's not a bruiser. He's not a big back. He's and then I mean, Moss isn't huge either. I mean, he's only 5'9", but he does weigh 223 pounds, so he's a bit bigger. And last year Singletary only had 5 touches inside the 10, and so he's not going to get that. He doesn't have that touchdown upside when they're on the goal line. He's more of a, he's gonna get his touchdowns on longer runs, outside the 20 or just inside the 20. So I think that Zach Moss is going to take his goal line touches, and that's why I think he's a little bit high. And not only that, I mean, I also think that Zach Moss is going to get some touches not just inside the red zone. He'll take some away from him, any in the back half of the field or wherever you want to say. But he's high for me overall.
See, he's in an interesting situation for me. I see that he had those few games off due to injury, but he only started 8 of those games last season. He was a rookie last year, and they did ship out Frank Gore. So I feel like he's going to be getting more of a timeshare in that backfield, with Zach Moss maybe taking over, like you said, those goal line touches.
Hold on. You said more of a timeshare?
Yeah, more. He's going to be getting more time.
Okay. He's going to get more carries, you're saying?
Yeah, he's going to get. I'm sorry. I apologize. He's going to have more of a market share.
I just wanted to.
You're fine. So he's going to have more carries next year, and he's going to be the go-to starting running back, not Frank Gore starting this season. And that might not be something that lasts all season. I think Zach Moss it's going to turn into an equal timeshare in the backfield towards the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, 80 at RB25, you're looking at someone you're not really expecting much from your second running back, possibly your flex player at that point, being that it's just below the 24 mark. I still think he's too high, but I don't think by much. I think he's worth that 30 mark, maybe like 32.
Yeah, and I do. I see him having a similar season as he did last year. Maybe a little bit higher.
Yeah, I see just a small uptick, but not a crazy amount where you're like, wow, I missed out on him.
And a couple running backs going behind him are Kareem Hunt and Raheem Mostert. And I'm grabbing them all day.
I'm grabbing Raheem Mostert over him.
I'll even grab Kareem Hunt. He does have PPR value.
In PPR, absolutely.
So I mean, and this is in a PPR league. So I mean, I think he's kind of high for where he is and the players around him.
Yeah, I mean, he only had 41 targets last season at 29 receptions. So you're not really expecting him to be a PPR monster. He's going to be a rushing game guy, and I don't see him putting up 1,000 yards.
Awesome. Well, John, let's get into your first. Melvin Gordon, is he high or low?
I think Melvin Gordon's pretty high.
Really?
Right now he's going at draft pick of 36, which makes him the 21st running back off the board. So you're looking for a pretty high-end, medium-end running back 2 out of his value. But he's already coming into a new offense and competing in the backfield with Phillip Lindsay, who last year finished above Melvin Gordon on 15 games compared to Melvin's 12. And Lindsay finished at running back 17, and Melvin's finished at 26, and that's still PPR. So he only played his 12 games last season. He's only played a full season once in his career, where he's actually averaging 11.5 games per season. So you're really not expecting him to get you 16 games, hope not even 15. And he's only rushed for 1,000 yards out of that entire time, and that was his 16-game season where he rushed for a 1083. And so you're really looking at his upside comes from a PPR value and that pass catching. And he just lost his quarterback, who's routinely littered the backfield with passes, along with throwing it upfield as a late check down. Drew Lock hasn't done that. He only had a 33% check down rate compared to Phillip Rivers' 48. And so last season you didn't even see Phillip Lindsay getting a lot of the pass catching work out of the backfield. And I'd like to say that, maybe it was Davante Parker getting it, but he didn't even get the pass work. All of the passes once Drew Lock came downfield, minus 3 to 5 per game, were going downfield to your tight end or downfield to your receivers. So your Melvin Gordon's not going to be getting that PPR work that he was getting last season, and he's not going to be getting that rushing clear running back 1. This is my starting running back from the Broncos coming into this season. So I don't think you're going to be getting running back 2 value from him. You might even find yourself with a second string running back if Phillip Lindsay can be more valuable and be more fantasy relevant with his pass catching work and his ability to get upfield.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. That backfield kind of worries me because, I mean, Phillip Lindsay, he did put up he finished 13th in 2018 in PPR as the running back 13. So, I mean, he is a talented back, and I do think he's going to take carries away from Melvin, and he's also going to take targets away. I mean, he's a pretty well-versed running back, and I agree. I mean, it's difficult for me because every time I think of Melvin Gordon, I think, those Chargers, the Charger days when he was a top 5 running back.
He finished
6.
26 on 12 games last season, and in a backfield where they shared it with Austin Eckler, and Austin Eckler was still a beast even after Melvin Gordon came back last season. So I'm not saying that he's not going to be irrelevant, but I don't see him fitting into the way that the Broncos are going to be playing football this season. And I don't see him being so much better than Phillip Lindsay that Phillip Lindsay becomes irrelevant.
Right.
It's going to be a strong timeshare with 2 really good running backs.
Right.
So I think they should kind of be like sitting just above where Jordan Howard and Matt Breida are sitting for the Dolphins. They're both really good running backs in a new in a system that can't support 2 running backs. There's not enough attempts. It's not the 49ers where they can support 2 really good running backs.
So let me give you a quick question before we move on. Melvin Gordon or Mark Ingram?
Mark Ingram.
Okay. One more.
Okay.
Melvin Gordon or David Montgomery? Mark Ingram's going as a 23, and then running back 23, and then David Montgomery's running back 24. So
I honestly, I think I might take the opportunity on David Montgomery.
Yep.
I think that the Bears didn't play him enough last season.
Oh, well, I mean, he got his touches. He wasn't very efficient. That was his issue.
I think he missed out a lot of carries in the first half of the season when he was actually starting to be on a good roll.
Yeah.
And they just didn't seem to want to keep feeding him. So it seemed like it was more of a desperation play towards the end of the season when they were throwing him in there and trying to see what he can do. But I would take the shot on him. I mean, again, I'm not hot on Melvin Gordon. I'm going to avoid that risk altogether this season. And as much as I liked Phillip Lindsay last season, again, avoiding that risk without question.
With that
unless they fall, super late.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just going to avoid them altogether.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, stay away from it. Mitigate risk is the main thing. And
Well, I mean, especially that early in the draft, you're only in the third, fourth round.
yep.
So my question for you right now: are you hot, or are you, feeling a little high or low on David Johnson?
That's high. That's high.
Sitting at
ADP 31.
31.
Running back 18. That's extremely high for me, especially after watching last year. He did not look like the same running back at the beginning of the season. At any point in the season that we're used to. And I know, he has dealt with injuries. It's him and Duke Johnson in the backfield there, and Duke's going to get, the majority of the passing work. Actually, last year, if you look in, especially in a PPR league, Duke finished at the running back 29, and then Carlos Hyde, who had a great year. I mean, he had a great year last year. He finished, it was kind of out of nowhere. It saved some people in their leagues, but
Killed me in mine.
Yeah.
I was riding on Duke. I've had him for years in one of my dynasty leagues, and I was really hoping. I'm like, oh my gosh, Lamar Miller got hurt. This is his chance.
This is it.
I've been waiting for this.
But anyway, so Duke finished 29th and as a running back 29, and Carlos Hyde finished as a running back 30 in a PPR league. So I think it's going to be similar. I don't see David Johnson reverting back to what he was a few years ago with the Cardinals.
Absolutely not.
So, overall, I just think it's way too high. There's a couple other running backs going around his spot. Le'Veon Bell is right behind him at running back 19. He's actually the next ADP as well at 32.
You taking Le'Veon over? Dude?
Yeah.
Absolutely?
Yeah.
Same.
100%.
Now, just a little bit behind. So say Melvin Gordon, like we just talked about, his ADP is 36. If you found yourself in a case where David Johnson fell to you at the 36th pick, are you taking David or Melvin?
I'm taking Melvin.
Really?
Yeah, just because the last time he didn't have a great end of the year, but he didn't look as sluggish and as
old.
Not old, but just not. I guess maybe old is the right word. I don't know.
He's not a spring chicken. He's been around.
Yeah. So I'm taking Melvin Gordon there over David Johnson, and I think you're going to get a similar situation in the fact that there's two capable running backs in both systems.
So are you saying right eye on Duke Johnson?
No. Oh. Grab him late. I don't know his exact ADP at this point. But anyways, overall, I think that's high for David Johnson. And I know that's going to kill a lot of people because they're all high on him. But what, you got something to say?
Duke Johnson's ADP right now is 127, which makes him the running back 52.
Ooh, that's a pretty nice value right there. I like that value a lot.
That's pretty great. That's 10th round. That's 10th, 11th round.
Okay, well, keep him on your radars, boys and girls, because you might be getting that flex spot in your league, and even if
might be that sleeper.
Yeah, even if he finishes as a running back 36,
that means he would have had a couple good games that could have saved you a week if you were able to project them out and know when it was going to happen.
And that's the one thing about him is projecting him. So, but anyways, let's move on to John's next high or low, and that is I like this one. I didn't read this beforehand. So, Davante Parker.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
So here's my case.
I
think he is possibly
No. What is he?
Let me say it.
Okay.
He's possibly one of the best mid-round values that you have with a medium floor, moderate floor. He's playable and a really high ceiling. Right now he's going in the ADP of 70, which makes him the wide receiver 29 off the board. And last season he finished wide receiver 9. He had 72 catches for 1,202 yards, 9 touchdowns. He had a streak where he's going touchdown almost every game. And it was by far one of the best seasons he's had in the NFL. But it does show that he is a really good receiver that can produce for a team. They rely a lot on him. Miami's weapons really didn't get much deeper in this offseason as far as like who the quarterback can throw it to. Obviously,
No, they
added
invested a lot in
their
offensive
line.
lines and defensive lines.
And so you're going to see more time for him to be getting deeper and more open, more separation as a receiver. You have Tua coming in, hopefully at least by midseason.
See, I think that hurts Davante, to be honest.
Really, so my thought process on it, and from what I was looking at, was if Tua's going to be sitting there learning from Ryan Fitzpatrick coming into this offense, Ryan Fitzpatrick kind of relied on Davante Parker at the end of last season when Preston was out and they were moving forward. And, you know, when Tua comes into the offense, he's going to probably rely on his best receiver he has until he gets comfortable in that offense. And it's going to be Jordan Howard, Tua, and Mike Gesicki show for at least a few weeks. And as much as I like Preston, I think he's a great red zone target. But in that midfield area, I think Davante's got a little more separation opportunity and better at getting away from his corner. I mean, one of the best secondary players in the league, according to everyone else right now, is Stephon Gilmore. And if you look at the second time the Dolphins played the Patriots, he made Stephon Gilmore look like
a baby,
like trash. So he's skilled. He has the skills. He's great at getting away from his defender.
But can he stay healthy?
And that is something that you really need to think about and plan around. And I don't think that risk value should make him drop from someone who you're grabbing in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, questioning. I think he needs to be going up closer to the 40s or 50s with that risk and that injury, and that's going to put him somewhere closer to like DJ Chark, T.Y. Hilton, and I think that's where he deserves to be.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I definitely think he could. I mean, he finished last year as a wide receiver 11, and I think that's. I don't know if he can finish as a wide receiver 1 again, though. That's my only thing, especially if he doesn't, if Ryan Fitzpatrick comes in, because Ryan Fitzpatrick is a gunslinger, and I get, you're saying that Tua is going to learn from, Fitzpatrick and stuff like that. But at the same time, Tua, he's been a quarterback, for his whole life, or however long he's been a quarterback, playing at Alabama. So he's not just going to change in a year just because he sits behind Fitzpatrick. But, he did have a similar target in Jerry Jeudy and at Alabama. So, I mean, I think the best thing for Davante would be to have Fitzpatrick finish or play this year and have him throwing the ball around and being the gunslinger that he is. And I think that's his route into being another or finishing as a wide receiver 1. So,
yeah, no, I'm not expecting him to even finish at the wide receiver 1. I think he has more of a, someone who has a really moderate floor with a really high upside. So, and that's why I was saying he should be going somewhere closer to like the 40 and 50 ADP rather than the 70, where you're picking him up in the 3rd or 4th round.
He is value.
He's someone who has high upside and someone that's going way late. And so he's just really low for where he should be. So someone I would be picking up later in the draft and hoping, you're not expecting too much.
Yeah, I mean, at 29, he's a high-end. So, I mean, where he's being drafted at as a high-end wide receiver 3, and I think he'll definitely, fulfill that. So, I can see it.
So, to finish this up on your end, my question for you is, we've got Mr. Julian Edelman, the Tom Brady's favorite Walmart grocery bagger, at ADP 74, wide receiver 30. So he's going just behind Davante Parker right now.
In a PPR league, he's low. I mean, that's all I gotta say. I mean, he finishes a wide receiver 26 or wide receiver 7. I'm sorry, last year. Overall, he finished as a 26th player, and I mean that's just ridiculous value. No matter who starts, whether it's whether it's Cam Newton or Jarrett Stidham, he's gonna get his targets. And in the last, out of the last 3 years, he hasn't gone below 100 targets, and he's gone over or close to. I mean, in 2016, he finished with 98 receptions. Last year, he finished with 100 receptions. So overall, being drafted as a wide receiver 30 is ridiculous, especially in a PPR league. I mean, he's going to finish at least as the wide receiver, 24, low end wide receiver 2. No matter who starts. I mean, he's going to get those targets and he's going to get those catches. He's not going to get his touchdowns. I mean, he may get 5. Last year and the year before that, he had six touchdowns. So he's not going to get his money in touchdowns, but he will make up for that with his targets and with his receptions.
Now, do you think the addition of N'Keal Harry coming back, hopefully healthy this season, or Marquise Lee coming into the offense is going to be taking away from those 153 targets he got, which is honestly, the third highest in the league last year?
No, because he's playing in the slot. He's that safety blanket. They don't really. I mean, they drafted 2 tight ends this year, Devin Asiasi and I forget the other guy's name, honestly.
Okay, number 2.
I don't know. Anyway,
he's fast.
He can be fast all he wants.
Yeah.
But they don't have that tight end to rely on. N'Keal Harry, I mean, he didn't show much. I'm more worried about Jacoby Myers.
I mean, they spent a first-round pick on the guy. He's got to be talented.
I mean, maybe, but he didn't show it. I didn't see,
He was injured. And he came off of injury.
That's fine. But I'm not saying that he's a bad receiver at all. I'm just saying that I'm more worried about Jacoby Myers, who did show flashes. But anyways, they're going to be lining up on the outside anyway. So, and Julian Edelman's going to be lining up in the slot. And he's going to be getting, open and across the middle of the field. I believe Cam's depth of target is like 8.3 or something like that, average depth of target. And that's in that spot where Julian's going to be. And he's just a safety blanket for that team.
So, yes or no? Julian Edelman, 100 receptions next season?
No.
No.
But he'll be in the low 90s, high 80s. So, I mean, that's a lot of points. 90, 80 points in PPR league.
Touchdowns, 6?
5. So, I mean, I haven't statted them out yet.
No, I understand.
I'm working on them. But, I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know if he's not – he may –
Julian Edelman or Davante Parker?
In a PPR league, I'm going Julian Edelman.
Okay.
Just because of the safety net.
Okay. I think last year was kind of an outlier for him. 153 targets is a lot for a receiver, and that definitely had something to do with the fact that they didn't have a strong tight end last year. They didn't have any other reasonable receivers to be throwing to. You had a few injuries. You had a lot of unnamed people. Jacoby Meyer. I mean, you're not looking at a lot of competition. So I think he's someone who you're going to see a large regression in his total targets this year as he continues to get a little bit older and starts peaking out. I mean, I see him for closer to 80 targets this year, or 80 receptions this year for 4 or 5 touchdowns. I think he's going to be a mediocre wide receiver 3. And again, but a super high floor, like, for someone like that. His floor is really high, but he doesn't have a lot of upside. I
think his upside is there in a PPR league, though. I mean, he's hit over 150 targets 3 times in his career, and one of those being in 2016, when Gronk was hurt. So
that would give more reason for that to be
right. But there's nobody else in the offense really.
I mean, if you have N'Keal Harry coming in, who's someone who's supposed to be this great,
he's
talent,
not proven though.
He's not proven, but it only takes 2 games to be proven. Last year, Preston Williams came into the league unproven, and at this point, I would say he's a pretty proven receiver. He's not proven. I would definitely think he's.
I mean, he was solid.
An optionable target for an NFL
he's
quarterback.
Optionable. Being an optionable target versus a safety blanket, and like somebody is going to be there and be open. It's a little different.
Plus a new quarterback where they don't have that connection where Brady's been throwing to Edelman for years now. I just don't see him. I don't see him breaking 90 receptions next season.
And I mean, like I said, low 90s, high 80s is where he's going to get. I mean, I think he'll probably get around, and like I said, I haven't statted him out yet, but 120, 118, 120 targets, 100, maybe 120 around that area. So he's just a safety blanket, and he's not going to get his money in touchdowns. He'll get a few. But those targets and those receptions is really where he's going to, flourish. Yeah. So that's, and as like I said, at wide receiver 30, that's
he's a good value. I don't see his upside. I think his ceiling this year coming into it is no more than a high end 2.
Yeah, and that's all you want though at your wide receiver 30.
Yeah, at 30. Yeah, I was just saying, no way in heck he's a wide receiver 1 this season.
Yeah, it'd be
I'd bet my home against it.
Your home?
Yeah.
I might take that bet.
Do it.
No, not with
my
Tom Brady gone. But yeah, it's pretty much the same one. So, but let's get into your last high or low, and that is Josh Jacobs.
All right. So personally, I think Josh Jacobs is going incredibly high for someone. You see, last year he was the first running back drafted in the 2018 draft to the Raiders. They had, again, nobody. Jumped right into a huge role for the team. He was fed a lot after the first couple games of sitting out and had a couple games out. But they really didn't add. They added a little bit of depth into the receiving core by getting Henry Ruggs. They added a little bit of depth into their running back room with Lynn Bowden, who's someone you're going to see be catching the football from the backfield a lot. And pre-draft, there was a lot of hype around Josh Jacobs getting work in the pass-catching game, and they're going to focus on getting him the ball as a pass catcher this season. But they just drafted someone who's an incredible pass-catching running back, and they still have Jalen Richard on the team, who's someone who's not a top-end receiving back, but someone who's competent and someone that, you don't need to rely on Josh Jacobs, who doesn't really have that pass-catching role. You can continue to just use him as your primary runner. And so last year he finished as the running back 18, and he's being drafted as at ADP 10, RB 7. So you're taking him in that first round. If you're lucky, he's falling to you at the beginning of the second. And I just don't see him taking that jump from 18 all the way up to 7 when he had 242 carries last season. So he had the opportunity to run the ball and be productive. And with the addition of Bowden into the offense and Richard still being there, I don't see him getting an extra 100 carries or an extra 100 targets or even 60 targets out of the backfield. And so I really see him as a low-end running back 1 at his upside, and at the low-end running back 2 at his floor. He's going to be someone that's rosterable. You're going to play him, but you're not going to play him every week. It's not someone you're going to be wanting to spend that first-round draft pick on. I mean, at 10, you could be grabbing a really good receiver like, if you're lucky, Michael Thomas might have dropped this far because some people are letting him fall. I was in a draft earlier. Someone let him drop. Really? Yeah, someone let him drop all the way to 12 because it was running back 1 through 11 first.
Wow. Oh.
Yeah.
I want to be in that league.
It was crazy. And so, you could get Davante Adams, Julio. You can get an elite receiver who's confident. Or you can also even get someone that's still a really good running back. I mean, Joe Mixon is right there, who's someone who's going to be feeding off of a bad offense. I'm not spending that high draft pick on Josh Jacobs when there's no reason to believe that he's going to be getting an increase in value to go from 18 to 8 or even 7.
That's interesting. That's interesting. And I mean, I think it's difficult for me. I think that I might agree there, depending on who's there, I guess. Really, when you're drafting, if a high end receiver is there, I might take them over Josh Jacobs. Like, if they start throwing the ball to Josh Jacobs, I think he'll start getting more and more value, and he will fulfill that. But if it's the same as last year, then I would agree. I think it's kind of high. So
he's someone that he could have an extra value, but even with an extra 40 receptions to him at 8 yards a catch, he's only jumping up to your running back 12. So it's not a huge jump, and that's pretty decent as a pass catching back. So you're really not I don't see where everyone's getting this idea that he's a top 10 running back fantasy wise. He's talented. He's someone that's a really good, maybe a top 15 running back in football sense, but fantasy wise, he's not putting up the numbers. He's not in a great organization that has that offensive line. He doesn't have the quarterback that's opening up the passing game so much that it's creating opportunities in the running game. So he's just not in the system that's going to make your fantasy player shine.
Yeah, no. My only thing there is they don't really have any other offensive, like, top tier offensive weapons. You know, they drafted Henry Ruggs to be that, you know, that next top tier. I mean, they've got Tyrell Williams, they've got Hunter Renfrow, and
Darren Waller thrived last season because of it. And I mean, Waller. 242 carries, that's a considerable share of the backfield.
Oh, 100%.
So I don't know how many more is expected to get. I mean, 300's putting him towards someone that's taking a heavy share of the workload, and they're a team that's playing from behind generally. So they're trying to get the ball out, and they're trying to move it downfield.
And that's the thing I think that hurts him the most, is the fact that they're going to be playing from behind a lot. And it's not going to be conducive to the running game. And that's why I said I think as long as he gets in that, can get that receiving work, then, he will fulfill that. I mean, if you're looking at his averages, I mean, he's 4.8 yards a carry is not bad, it's pretty good. So, but anyways, that's it. That's high or low. It was a pretty good one, good segment. So let's move on to the rookie running backs, and I'm super excited for this one because in one of my dynasty leagues, I had two, the first pick and the second pick. Remember that, John? You're in that one.
Yeah, I know. You let Tua fall to me, and I really appreciate it because I needed a quarterback. So I'll be starting Jimmy G and Ryan Tannehill, I believe. Oh no, Jimmy G and Teddy Bridgewater as my QB 1 and 2 this season.
It's a super flex league. So my quarterbacks are set. I've got Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, and Russell Wilson.
Just stop.
Not bragging.
You want to trade me one of them?
No. So anyways, I'll get into my first one real quick, and that is Deandre Swift. He's going as a running back, 29, ADP 60. If you look at his college stats, I mean, he put up numbers, averaging in his junior year 6.2 yards a carry. Before that, he was averaging 6.4 and 7.6. So he put up 1,200 yards in his senior year, 8 touchdowns, and he also caught the ball. 30 targets and 24 receptions for 216 yards. So pretty good all around back. The only concerns I have for him, he's kind of small, and he did deal with injuries throughout college. He's not afraid to lower his shoulder and, push through that, the line to get that.
Is that where his injury concern comes from? Is the fact that he's not willing to pull away from hits?
That, and I mean, he's only 5'8". I mean,
yeah.
he's not a big back. He's only 212 pounds, which, I mean, I guess for a guy his size is pretty good. But overall NFL, running back, that's
not crazy.
Huge. Yeah. So, but anyways, and a couple other concerns I do have is that the Lions ran the ball 39.9% of the time last year, so 40%, and that was 20th in the league, and they only scored 7 rushing touchdowns, and that was 20. They finished 29th in the league, and then the year before that they ran the ball 39.6% of the time, and those were the 2 years that Matt Patricia was the head coach. So that does bother me a little bit I don't know. Obviously it's a passing offense, with Matt Stafford, Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, and the addition of TJ Hawkinson last year. And not only that, they did lose a couple offensive linemen in free agency and whatnot. They lost Graham Glasgow, which, he was the 10th ranked right guard in the league last year. And they also lost Rick Wagner, their right tackle. So they did replace both of those players, but with players who aren't as proven. I don't know how to say his first name, but Vaitai as their right tackle. Last year he scored I believe it was 76.2 grade on PFF. They ranked by PFF in run blocking. So that's solid, but that was the best of his career. And then they also drafted the guard Jonah Jackson out of Ohio State, who I think, if I watch some of his tape today, and he's a mauler. He's a big boy, NFL size frame. He played in the Big Ten, which, if you watch college football, that's one of the best, if not the best, conference in the nation, especially for offensive linemen. They put out solid offensive linemen. So, and
second best,
maybe, whatever. You're an SEC guy. So, one of my favorite things about him is that he finishes his blocks. If you watch him, once he pushes a guy off the line, he doesn't just sit there, especially in run blocking. He doesn't just sit there. He puts him to the ground, puts his head in the dirt. So, I think that's gonna, tremendously help Deandre Swift. And the biggest concern, I think, on the team, though, for DeAndre is Kerryon Johnson. He's been there the last couple years. They drafted him in 2018, but he has had a lot of health concerns, or injuries, I guess. He missed 6 games in his rookie season due to a knee sprain, and then he missed 8 games last year with a torn meniscus. So, and to be honest, when he is on the field, Matt Patricia just doesn't seem to like him.
How could you not like Kerryon?
I know. I traded for him. It kind of hurt because last year I thought he was going to be great and whatever. So didn't end well. But if you look back to his 28 season, his last 3 games, he was hitting a really solid stretch of games, and he just, he sprained his knee and was out for the remainder of the season. But at his ADP, at ADP 60, running back 29, would I take him? In the right situation, I would. If I'm going on with a 0 RB strategy, I'll take him.
As your RB1? RB2?
RB2. I might take him as my
Flex
RB1 because RB2. At that point, you'd be at your RB2. So
yeah, you're talking like 5th round.
So beginning of 6. So, I would take him.
Okay.
Take him there. So, let's move on to John's first running back, and that is, drum roll.
So, obviously, my name's John. So, I got to go with Johnathan Taylor, one of the most possibly run-through-your-face guys in the draft class. So in his last season, he finished with 320 carries in a 13-game season for 2,003 yards and 26 total touchdowns. That's pass catching and rushing. So he's proven he can be a monster workhorse for his team and extremely deadly on the goal line. He's coming into the Colts offense, whose last season had 471 rushing. I don't know what's wrong with me tonight. 471 rushing attempts last season, and he's really only going to be competing against Marlon Mack, who's for the starting spot on the team. Mack's someone who's really never blown us away. His best games were like, wow, he was kind of there. He had a decent game, and he had a couple decent games there in the center of the year last year. And so he's, finishing last season with barely over 1,000 yards and 247 carries. You're not expecting a lot to come from him. And with them using that first round draft pick or the second round draft pick on him, you're expecting them to have a lot of value in who they think Johnathan Taylor is, and either getting him ready to take over that number one spot soon, or to already have that number one spot and ready to push Marlon Mack back.
Back it up, Marlon Mack.
Yeah. And so the Colts had the fifth most rushing attempts across the league, and Taylor should pretty quickly get his role into the primary role. Mack does have a slight injury history. Last year he only had 14 games. And if he goes down at all, Taylor will quickly go from someone who you're questionable at the RB 2 or 3 or flex to someone you're like, wow, this guy might be an RB, possibly low end RB1, high end RB2 if he can get that whole backfield to himself. So, I mean, he's not someone I would be picking up because he's being drafted at the RB22 right now, and that's kind of high for a rookie. I don't like taking huge risks on rookies, especially at the running back position where they're not going to be a clear-cut number one because you don't know what you're going to get from them and how many carries they're actually going to get.
Mm-hmm.
So someone I'm going to be staying away from at the time, unless I have, I'm in a position where I'm like, wow, I can actually take a risk at this draft position right now, and my third running back, I'd take a risk on that if he falls to me in like the 5th round or something, and but other than that, I don't see it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I think that he does have value depending on the style of draft you're doing. And, I mean, he could be I think down the road, after this year, he will be a running back 1. I mean, I think that's what they drafted him to be. So
if you can pick him up because someone drafted him and they end up dropping him early in the season because they want a roster spot for someone else, pick him up. By the end of the season, he's probably going to be useful on a week-to-week basis. Or close to a week-to-week basis.
Mm-hmm.
It's just questionable in the beginning of the season. I don't want to use my pick that early for someone where I'm not sure what I'm getting from him weeks 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to waste that when I have someone who I know what I'm getting. It just might not be as great.
Right. So if you don't mind, John, I'm going to jump into my second running back, and that's Cam Akers. He's a great runner. Overall, great running back. He catches the ball well. He has the ability to, get the yards after contact, which is great, especially for a runner, falling forward, getting those extra 1 to 2 yards. He's a great pass catcher. The only flaw, I guess or one of the, not many, but one of the couple flaws he does have is his pass blocking ability. So, anyways, last year, I mean, we saw that the Rams' offensive line was, horrendous, and that's what scares me about him. They didn't go after the offensive line in the draft. Overall, I think that if they would have, bolstered that lineup, especially the interior, you got Andrew Whitworth on the outside. So, I mean, he's older, but he is a solid left tackle. And anchor that offensive line. But if they would have gotten some help on the interior, then I think that Cam Akers, could be a solid running back. But last year under McVay, it was their lowest yards per carry. They were at 3.7 yards per carry, which is, tremendously low. So my thought here is, they need those 2 years prior. They had Todd Gurley as their number 1 running back. So I think that they need to get back to having that number 1 running back. I don't think it's this year. So I'm staying away from Cam. He does have the upside, but I think it's going to be too much of a running back by committee, especially with Darrell Henderson. And not only that, Malcolm Brown is going to take those goal line attempts away from him, which will take away from those touchdowns.
Yeah. See, for me, Cam Akers is someone I'm just personally going to be staying away from for the same reason. He's an early round running back that's going as a rookie who doesn't have that clear number one role cut out for him. So I'm going to avoid him. You should avoid him too, unless he just happens to fall a few rounds later. So my next running back personally might fall in the same situation, but it's J.K. Dobbins. Again, he's someone who finished the season for 2,003 yards last year. Just so happens that Johnathan Taylor and him had the exact same yardage. But he did have less carries with less touchdowns. But he had 302 carries for 23 total touchdowns. He's an incredibly agile player who can both run through the line past your linebackers or run on the outside, drop your, step underneath the corner and just go upfield for a big break. He fits really well into that Ravens offense with Lamar Jackson. And while his role in the offense isn't going to be as clear cut, and he's not going to have to earn that role behind Mark Ingram, who's an absolute baller. He's been around for years. That Ravens offensive coordinator, Greg Roman, has come out and stated that he plans to get Ingram and Dobbins both involved and that they didn't want to waste that draft pick. And so, I see Ingram more as a goal line running back when they're inside that 20, that 10, and they just need that 4 or 5 yard push. Ingram's small, stout. He's getting in there. He can do it. He's proven to do it. He can. But I don't see J.K. Dobbins doing the same thing.
He did the same thing in New Orleans. He was the goal line back there, Ingram.
Oh, Ingram, yeah. Okay, I was like, J.K. did that in New Orleans?
Yeah,
Wow,
a couple years ago, he was in the NFL.
Been to the Saints already.
Yeah.
So with him currently being drafted at, ADP of 78 and RB 34, I might pick him up.
Ooh. You got that look in your eye.
I'm really on the fence. I'm going to be honest with everyone right here. I actually have myself saying I don't think I'd take him, but the more I think about
After you're talking about it,
and the more I'm looking at who's going around that 34 spot, I think I'm actually going to be grabbing him because he's someone who has upside. He's someone who's incredibly skilled, and if Ingram's only taking away that touchdown upside, you're not expecting Dobbins who's being drafted right now at 78 and your RB 34 to be putting up 20 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
If he just gets me 80 yards and a few catches with maybe a touchdown, awesome. Perfect.
Right.
Great flex player.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I'm asking for him.
So, anyways, I'll get into the last rookie running back that we're going to be talking about. And, of course, we save the best for last because, ooh, boy.
This one is going to be great. Big argument here, but
Clyde-Edwards-Helaire. Damian Williams is opting out, and Clyde-Edwards-Helaire is the only back here. John, are you drafting him in the first?
Absolutely not.
Oh, really?
Absolutely not.
Okay, I see it. Dude, he put up a ridiculous amount of yards at LSU his junior year. 14-14. So 1,414 yards rushing, plus his receiving yards at 453. I mean, that's ridiculous. Guess how many rushing or total touchdowns he had?
How many total touchdowns?
17. That's my lucky number,
by
the way. So he's got to be lucky.
Taylor had 26.
Yeah, but I'm talking about
Dobbins had 23.
I'm talking about the guy who is on the best offense in the league. Debatable, I guess. Baltimore. Baltimore's a close second to me.
No, there's so much skill in every position at Kansas City. You can't. Baltimore's questionable at the receiver base.
So you're agreeing with me.
I'm saying Kansas City's the best offense.
Okay, good.
I think that
All
makes
right,
more of a case on why you don't draft Clyde because there's so many other people to feed.
But there's no other running backs. There's no other running backs, especially with Damian Williams. Unless they sign somebody, that's the only thing you've got to worry about.
Which is incredibly possible and something I'm personally in the mindset that
they're going to take.
It's inevitable. It's going to be happening. If I have a draft tomorrow, I'm in the mindset that they're probably going to sign someone before the season starts. If I'm doing a draft the day before the season and I've got the 12th pick and he's sitting there, I might grab him.
Joe Mixon or
Joe Mixon.
Really?
Yeah.
Even with his injury history?
Yeah, even with his injury history, he's someone who's guaranteed opportunity in a team where you have a brand new quarterback.
Clyde-Edwards-Helaire is also guaranteed that. I mean, they wouldn't have spent a first-round pick on him if they didn't think that, he's going to be the guy.
So going back to my question about Julian Edelman and N'Keal Harry, who happen to have the exact same draft position as Clyde Edwards, coming into a situation where N'Keal Harry was a more needed role in that team than Clyde-Edwards is for the Chiefs. And how did that turn out?
Well, I mean, he was injured for most of the season last year, so I mean, he didn't really show too much. But there's also, there's already a proven receiver on the team, so I mean, that's not really comparable because they're not. First of all, they're not playing the same position. Second of all, the offense for the Chiefs is a lot more explosive than the Patriots was last year.
So you think that Clyde-Edwards is a top 5 running back right now?
Top six. Yeah, top 6. Henry's the one I'm tossing around, but him and Henry or Derrick Henry are the two that I'm a little worried about.
So I'm just asking because right now the news is still kind of fresh.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go around the league and you go through different sites and see where people are projected, they have Edwards somewhere between that RB8 and RB14.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at what people are actually saying online, Twitter, Instagram, a lot of people are putting him in that RB5 spot.
Yeah, ton of them.
Are you picking him up at RB5?
RB5, no. Dalvin Cook's there. I'll take Dalvin Cook.
So PPR league, Josh Jacobs or Clyde-Edwards?
Clyde-Edwards, hands down. You'd be the same. I know you would. I can see it in your eyes.
Honestly, I'd probably drop down to Joe Mixon again.
That wasn't the question.
Well, I don't want either.
I could say I could drop down to Kenyon Drake, I guess.
I don't trust either of them. I wouldn't want either of them on my team, especially if I'm drafting it like the 7 where Josh Jacobs going. I know it is, but realistically, pass. I don't want either of them.
You're not going to take.
Right,
John's going to skip out on his first round draft pick.
All right, so if we're talking 3rd round pick. It's my 3rd round pick, and for some reason, Josh Jacobs and Clyde-Edwards have fallen that low.
This is unrealistic.
Exactly.
There's
no point. There's no point I'd have him.
This is unrealistic. Oh, John,
I guess
don't take it there.
I guess I'm going.
Clyde-Edwards. You're going Clyde-Edwards. I can tell. You just don't want to admit it. You can admit it, John. It's okay. It's okay. Come over here.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'd go Clyde-Edwards because I have Josh Jacobs as a low-end running back 1, and that's probably where I see Clyde-Edwards finishing at the end of the season as a low-end 1.
Oh,
I definitely don't see him finishing a 5.
No, I don't either.
Okay. Okay. I had to rethink the question, make sure that I understood it and I could answer it in a safe way.
Oh man, but that's it. That's all we got for running backs. If we keep going, we're gonna fight each other, and it won't look pretty.
Gonna have beer all over the studio
on YouTube. So, anyways, let's get into our beer of the day real quick before we let you guys go. Ooh. What did you think, John?
It's a little sour.
Very sour, dude. Every time I take a sip, I'm like, I gotta watch the video back because my face is just like making that puckery. You ever had those Warheads?
Not in years. We should get some of those. Just a little bowl of them sitting right here. We can take one.
Ooh. But it is a again. It's called the wild. It's Apricot Wild Sour. John just got a cramp. Y'all got to go to YouTube to watch what just happened because that was good.
Oh, man down. I just got shot by a sniper on the grassy knoll. My gosh. I'm just sitting here hanging out, and that's what happens.
Oh, my gosh. Anyways, Wild Sour series. It's the Apricot edition. I guess is edition the right word? I mean, they got a ton of them.
The flavor?
Edition, flavor, same thing. By Distill Brewery. Pretty good beer. Definitely, if you're not into sour, if you don't like Warheads, if you don't like sour candy, it's not for you because it was making me, pucker up. I mean, when I was taking the sip, you mentioned it earlier, I was drinking it and it was, making my mouth dry. And then you mentioned that it made your mouth dry and then all of a sudden you started salivating. And that's because of the sourness.
Yeah, it's sitting on the back of your tongue.
Yeah.
And you're kind of thinking like, what's that flavor I feel back there? And you're like, oh, that's some sour apricot.
Yeah.
And you're thinking about that flavor, so you're salivating. But personally, like you said, if you're not into a sours type of person, you don't like your sour beer, sour candy, and stuff like that, not the type.
Not your beer.
And the reason for that is it's actually a really good sour. And
Mm-hmm.
as someone who really enjoys them, it's clear. It's a really clean taste. It tastes like the fruit. It tastes like slight beer with, that sour flavor. It doesn't just taste like
Beer.
no, it doesn't taste like just sour flavoring that we're trying to shove up your face.
Shove up your face.
It actually tastes like a really good fruity flavor that just happens to be sour, and it's alcoholic.
It's like an apricot.
Yeah, it's like a really good apricot soda with a little bit of a hoppy flavor. So it's a 6.0 ABV, so it's got a little bit of a kick. It's not the highest that you're gonna find, but it
lets you know it's there.
Yeah, after a couple, you're gonna know you've been drinking a few. IBU's at 8, and that's because it's a sour. It's not very bitter. There's not a lot of bittering units inside of it. But when you get to the aromas, it's did you get a good smell of it?
Mm-hmm. You get that fruity, like.
What'd you smell?
You can
smell the apricot.
Yeah, you can smell the apricot. You can smell the hops. You can smell the hops a little bit. You get it like a hint of hop.
Personally, I get the idea of like a apricot tart.
Never had one.
You've never had a little tart with a little apricot jam in it?
Only apricot pie. I think we talked about this at the beginning.
We did at the very beginning, but I didn't say anything about the tart. But no, realistically, like when I smell it and close my eyes, I get like a little baked good. And when you take a sip of it, the mouth feels really mild on the carbonation. And because it has that really smooth feeling, it's kind of velvety on the tongue. And like we mentioned before,
velvety. That's a good word.
I thought so. So like we said before, as you take your sip, it kind of sits on the back of your tongue. It dries up really quickly without giving you that bittery aftertaste.
Then your salivary glands kick into high gear.
Yeah, and then you're like, hold up, that fruity flavor. It only leaves a flavor when it sits in your mouth. If you take a sip, it's not coating your entire mouth with flavor. It's not super carbonated, so it's not bursting with little bubbles and air that's giving you all the taste you need. And it's really sweet, gives you that nice little sour flavor. It's a really good sour beer that I'd probably recommend really highly to people.
Yeah, I couldn't drink a ton of them, but I'd have tonight I had two, so, and I think that's probably where I'd stick around just because, it's a good beer to have, after work, something like that. I think to just kind of kick your shoes off, click, and
if you're not trying to commit to that like heavy flavor and really get into your beers,
right.
It's really great.
Just great evening drink. So,
or if you like going out with friends to breweries and you don't like beer,
ooh, good one.
This is for you.
Yeah, this is
This is a non-beer beer.
Yeah, if you're, I don't want an IPA. But all my friends like IPA, so I gotta fit in.
No, get yourself a sour.
No, get a sour. Get this. Get the wild sour apricot flavor. It is a seasonal beer though, so you gotta be on the lookout for when it's out. They have a ton. Like I said, they have a ton of them. They have a bunch of different flavors on their website. Go to Distill, and that's DESTIHL.com. Not however else you spell distill. And like I said, they're from the Normal, Illinois. Not where we're from. We're not very normal.
Abnormal Florida.
Yeah, abnormal Florida. That's all Florida. So, but anyways, they started getting recognition for their beers. In 2011, they went to the Great American Beer Fest in Colorado, and they brought 10 of their beers, and that's when they started blowing up. And that's why you've got all these beers everywhere. We found them down here in abnormal Florida. But anyways, at their brewery in Normal, they have a full restaurant. They do offer brewery tours, and they also have events. That's including beer yoga. They also have a concert series going on right now with a bunch of different musicians. And then
beer yoga.
And then of course you can't be a brewery if you don't have trivia. So remember that one time we went to trivia?
I love trivia night.
Yeah, Bon Jovi's the answer all the time.
If you don't know an 80s song, Bon Jovi.
That's it. Boom. It's got to be right. I don't even know if Bon Jovi's from the 80s, but I think we got
for us.
Yeah, well, we didn't get one answer right that night, but that's beside. No, we did get one. But anyways, they also host like open markets and open air markets. The next one being on August 23rd. So be sure if you're in the Normal area, or I guess, the area of Illinois and you don't have anything to do, go check them out. Anyways, I think it's it. I think that's it. That was a great show. Great show, John.
Yeah. So if anyone has any beer recommendations they'd like to send us, make sure you send it to thefantasytap@gmail.com. If you guys have any fantasy football advice, trade requests, if you guys want to know who the rookie running backs are going to be, if you guys know who the rookie quarterbacks and tight ends to look out for are going to be, make sure to tune into our next episode. It's going to be coming out Tuesday. We've got Instagram and Twitter where you can reach out to us for any of your fantasy football questions, any beer questions, or if you want us to send us any of those other beer reviews, send it our way. And Mike, what can they do to support us?
All you got to do is tell one person. Just tell one person about us. You don't have
people.
Yeah.
You tell 2 friends, they tell 2 friends.
Yeah, that'd be great. If you could tell 2 people, but all we're asking is just tell one person to go to thefantasytap.com and get that fantasy football knowledge. Let's get them championships this year, baby. Let's go.
Let's like and subscribe. Thank you, everyone.
Love you guys.
See you guys next week.